Good afternoon, all my good people. Welcome back to another episode of the Havoc Hour. I am your host, as always, Wreak Havoc. On this fine Thursday afternoon, we got quite a show to cover today. A lot of good topics. Some big money got thrown around this past week. UFC 251 is coming up this weekend. We'll do a little preview of that. A lot going on in the sports world. Sean Jackson in the news for some real stupid reasons, and we may have a date for Wilder Fury Part 3, the grudge match, to end all grudge matches. I'm gonna get into all that in a little bit more, but starting off with the biggest story that has gripped the sports world, has rocked the sports world. Talking, of course, about Mr. Patrick Mahomes II. This guy's 24 years old. He's 24 years of age, and already in his first season as a starter, threw for 50 touchdowns, was a league MVP. This past season, won the Super Bowl, was the MVP of the Super Bowl, and now has secured a contract worth $500 million. Let me run that to you one more again. $500 million with incentives and every other bonus imaginable should he hit it. It will top 503, about $503 million over the course of 10 years, over the course of 12 years. It's a 10-year deal, but it stretches out over 12. The dude's going to earn on average, starting next season, an average of $40 million a year. That's set for life. He's only, after the end of this deal, he's only going to be 34 years old with $500 million. That's not even counting, we're not even talking about endorsements, anything on TV, anything else. This is just to play football, man. That's the kind of money that he just put down in this contract here. So, you look at this deal and you say, wow, this is spectacular, this is amazing. And let me preface what I'm about to say by making this very clear. I truly believe Pat Mahomes earned every bit of that money. He was far and away the best football player on the field for the last 2 years. All due respect to Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Nick Bosa, George Kittle, all those guys. All due respect to all of y'all. Pat Mahomes is just on a different level. He's a different breed. He's different. He's separate from the pack. He is not like the rest of y'all. Plain and simple. As a freak athlete with an IQ that is just on a different level from everybody else. I mean, he said in an interview, he said he didn't even start reading defenses until the end of the 2018 season, the year before. He was just going out there playing football. Guy wasn't reading defenses, and he threw for 50 touchdowns that year. That's what we're talking about right now. So, yeah, he definitely earned this money. And now I gotta flip the script a little bit, because as great as this deal is for him, the Kansas City Chiefs, the NFL, the organization as a whole, the conglomerate that is the National Football League, has to sit back and it has to really ponder, what did they just do having this deal go through? And here's what I mean by that. The NFL is a hard cap league. If you didn't know already, if you're a professional sports person, you know about pro sports, you know how that works. It's a very hard cap league. The current cap is $200 million. Pat Mahomes is going to average basically $40 million in that hard cap league. And within that league, you already have so many players, some of the elite, top level talent in the game, that their biggest concerns have been centered around these contracts and what is guaranteed. Over the course of every collective bargaining negotiation, one of the biggest topics, biggest bullet points of conversation within those negotiations is the lack of guaranteed dollars. Where is the financial security for these players? Now, if you look at Pat Mahomes' deal, again, this is topped out at $500 million, 503 million. Even in his deal, now this for anybody else, this would be the payday of all paydays. But out of that $500 million, he's only guaranteed 145 million. Now, yes, saying that just that alone, again, it's madness. Guaranteed, those kind of guaranteed dollars don't come to much of anybody unless you're playing like baseball or something. So that alone is spectacular. But just looking at the scope, the overall size comparison of the deal to the guaranteed dollars, $500 million, you're guaranteed 145 million. That's what, a fifth, about a fifth of the deal guaranteed to him. That's the problem. That is what these players talk about when they sit down and they have these negotiations and they bring these things up, to the owners and executives throughout the league, because that's an issue. And particularly when you look at the numbers that they have shelled out to this young man, that's the other point. Y'all just opened the floodgates, man. What happens with the future talents in this league? Joe Burrow just completed the greatest college season of any quarterback in history. Number 1 overall pick. What happens when he goes to Cincinnati and throws for like 60 touchdowns? What happens if he leads Cincinnati Bengals to their first championship ever inside of 2 years? How much is he going to look for? When Lamar Jackson finally wins his first Super Bowl, that could be next year, could be the year after. Guys, that leaps and bounds improves every year. I mean, we knew. If you're me and I watched him in Louisville, I knew the guy is a solid quarterback. He can stand in the pocket. He can throw. He's more than just a running, mobile quarterback. But he has that talent. He can do a lot of things that Pat Mahomes cannot do. He's a lot faster and a lot more agile, a lot more moves in his toolkit. Pat Mahomes just has a different IQ and a different feel for the field than other quarterbacks. But Lamar Jackson is a problem, and he took leaps and bounds improvement from year 1 to year 2. So one can only imagine what year 3 is going to look like. But say he wins a championship. He's already won the MVP this past year. Say he wins a championship. Say he wins it decisively and he wins the MVP. How much money's going in his bank? Do I need to rehash the Dak Prescott conversation again? This is a guy that has consistently put up big numbers and has been leading this team out of I don't want to go too far here. Out of disparity, out of mediocrity. The Dallas Cowboys have been very mediocre in the years before Dak Prescott. In the years, AD, after Dak, whatever. Now that he's here, they've been to the playoffs twice. They've been deep in the playoffs twice. Haven't made the NFC Championship game, but they've been to the divisional round both times. Out of 4 seasons, they've made the playoffs 2 of them. They missed 2, but just barely. But they've been competitive through and through in all these games. You would not have that if Dak Prescott was not at the helm. When Zeke is having a bad day, Dak picks it up. Guy's averaging 30 touchdowns a season. Just last year had his best season. Over 4,000 yards, 30 plus touchdowns. And he is a model citizen, a model leader in the locker room. Doesn't have any character issues, no problems. He's not in the news for anything wrong. just about anybody else on the Dallas Cowboys has some kind of character issue or been in the news for something wrong, or whatever. Not Dak. Nope. Can't find a blemish on this young man. But he's getting franchise tagged year after year. It's 2020. That rookie deal is long up. He should have been paid by now. Now, I'm not going to suggest that he should be getting paid Pat Mahomes dollars, but if this is the kind of money that we're doling out, Dak Prescott needs to have some. Like, Jerry need to open up that checkbook and just make it rain. Because at the end of the day, if you look at the past decade plus, Jerry Jones has staked his future to a man by the name of Tony Romo. That name should ring bells to anyone that's listening right now, anyone that's watched football, watched pro sports. That man, Tony Romo is not a bad quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but he has never, and I mean never, given anyone the impression that he was going to win the championship. Just call it what it is. When the moment seems biggest, he shrinks. Period. End of story. I think the one exception was the game against Green Bay back in 2014 where Dez made the catch. They said it wasn't a catch, whatever. That was probably the one exception. And they lost anyway. But there was never any impetus that Tony Romo was going to win a championship in Dallas. I think hell would have froze over first. But now, the future is here. You have Dak Prescott. And he is, like I said, a model citizen, a leader in the locker room. And the guy keeps improving year after year. Dallas offense looks like one of the most potent in the league with all the improvements that they continue to make. They just drafted CeeDee Lamb to go along with what they already have, Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper. They have weapons, not to mention Zeke Elliott running the ball. That could go out next season and have a career year. And he's still not paid yet. So, again, as good as this is for Pat Mahomes, this opened a lot of doors that some of these big wigs in high places do not want opened. Because, they have stressed their stranglehold over the players and the clubs so much because they get away with, the bare minimums in terms of security for these guys. They want them to go out and sacrifice their bodies Sunday after Sunday. But when it comes to ponying up and making sure these young guys are secure for their future, for their lives after football, not a thought runs through their mind about it. It's not a concern. And while, like I said, Pat and his deal, he's going to be set no matter what, not everyone is that fortunate. Not everyone is going to see, I don't think anyone else is going to see these kinds of numbers. This is the biggest contract in pro sports history across every sport. Baseball, basketball, tennis, soccer, NASCAR, whatever. This is the contract to eclipse them all. This was the game changer to end them all. So, it's going to be a long time before we see something overtake this. But I'm just talking about the short-term repercussions of it all. Now these owners are about to be put on notice. Because a lot of these players, I just mentioned Joe Burrow, a lot of these receivers, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Just a whole bunch of players. Derrick Henry, he got his money. He got signed big, but uh, the rest of these guys, Lamar Jackson, you know, um, they're just a host of different players across the league. They are going to be looking to cash out because for so long it's like fighting to get more, fighting to get what they deserved, and now they see this window of opportunity because this young man has truly broken the bank. Now, everybody's in trouble because the next step is uh, who's next? Who's next up to get theirs? You know, that's what we're looking at in a nutshell. And I don't think these old cats are ready for that. I know they're not ready for that. But that's the door that was opened. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Trouble in paradise indeed. Oh boy. That's crazy. That's real crazy. I'm happy for the guy. I really am. I like I said before, I'm not gonna question that he earned every bit of that money, but you can't make a lasting peace this way. I'm telling you now. There will always be some kind of impasse between that top level ownership and the guys on the ground floor playing on Sundays every week. But on to a little more deep conversation here. Staying with football. Everybody knows and loves Deshaun Jackson of the Philadelphia Eagles. One of the most dynamic players of the last decade, easily. And a very outspoken man. So, given the climate of where we are today in the country and the world, really, he shared some thoughts on Instagram. And these thoughts were very controversial. It's very complex. I gotta be careful with what I say because this is a sports show. Sports and entertainment. I'm not here to push any beliefs or thought processes on anybody. I have my own beliefs and my own thought processes. I think for myself. I don't go along with stuff. I question everything, but I gotta very carefully put this in perspective. So, Deshaun posted a quote on his Instagram that it was a quote from Hitler, actually, and that's all anybody saw. It was a quote how he was speaking to his men about how even in his death he would triumph because, well, to paraphrase it, black people, African Americans, are the true children of Israel, the true Jews. And he speaks about how white people, Europeans, whatever, they have mistreated and destroyed the God's true jewels, essentially. That's his greatest gift, his greatest valuable commodity is the children of Israel. And because Essentially, white America has devalued and discriminated and attacked these people. They have attacked and, defiled God's gifts. They will ultimately be destroyed, because ultimately, extortion, world domination, that's the ultimate plan here for some people in certain places. And he posted this quote. Deshaun posted this quote, and it goes hand in hand with something that Minister Farrakhan said in a speech on 4th of July, in a plot involving Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates. Again, I'm not going to put my opinion out there. If you know me, you know what I think and how I feel. I'm not going to get into that. But he posted that, and it just let loose a firestorm of backlash, because obviously, the Eagles doing their PR, fans are upset, people are mad. Oh, he's quoting Hitler, da 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 da, and just, absolutely just attacking this man, just nonstop. And so, naturally, doing the PC thing, the Eagles let out a statement, and I'm gonna read that statement really quick here, because this is a bigger point that I want to get to, but I'm gonna read this statement by the Eagles really quick. It says, and I quote, "We have spoken with Deshaun Jackson about his social media posts, regardless of his intentions. The messages he shared were offensive, harmful, and absolutely appalling." I want you to keep that in mind. Those words. They have no place in our society, and we are not condoned. Okay, so whoever typed this does not know English, because this didn't look right. We are not condoned or supported in any way by the organization. Oh, and are not condoned. Okay, my bad. And are not condoned or supported in any way by the organization. We are disappointed, and we reiterated to Deshaun the importance of not only apologizing, but also using his platform to take action to promote unity, equality, and respect. Keep that in mind too. We are continuing to evaluate the circumstances and will take appropriate action. We take these matters very seriously and are committed to continuing to have productive and meaningful conversations with Deshaun, as well as all of our players and staff, in order to educate, learn, and grow. Okay. So, where do we begin? Well, let's see. That's very interesting. It's a very interesting statement. Very politically correct. And, well, I can see how you take that stance. The problem with that entire statement and this ideology that you have is that the Eagles set a precedent 7 years ago that really put them in a bit of a bind now with this particular situation. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me refresh your memory here. August of 2013, there was a player on the Eagles by the name of Riley Cooper. Riley Cooper was at a Kenny Chesney concert and got into a bit of an argument with some people at that concert. He was on camera. People had their phones out, recorded and everything like that. And ultimately, he could be heard verbally and seen saying, quote, "I will fight every nigger here." I will fight every nigger here. Okay. So, this was public. This was plastered all over TV. Every channel was covering it, ESPN, CBS, all over the news. Later, Riley came out publicly and he apologized for his comments, saying that he was, quote, ashamed and disgusted with himself. How did the NFL respond? How did the Eagles respond? I will tell you, Roger Goodell came out publicly on ESPN. I think it was on Mike and Mike. And he said that no additional punishment would be given to Riley Cooper. Nothing whatsoever. And the Eagles, they had no problems. They, I believe, let me see. I think he was suspended for a game. I believe so. He was fined. He was fined for it. That was about it. He received a fine for what he said, and the rest was swept under the rug. No additional punishment. Now, the Eagles haven't said anything in the way of what their next step is with Deshaun. They said they're going to talk with him and take appropriate action, but nothing has been said or done yet. I stress yet. But that statement that I just read a few seconds ago, that is nowhere near. In fact, not even a single word of that was uttered when Riley Cooper caught on camera saying what he said. When that came out, there was no statement from the Eagles saying that they were appalled, saying that they want people to learn and grow from this. No statements like that came out. None whatsoever. But Deshaun makes a quote just because it was from Big Bad Hitler. And now it's serious. When it comes to the context of that post that he made, do your own research on that. That's all I'm going to say. Yes, we know who Hitler is. No one's supporting Hitler, but do your research on that particular post, on that quote. Do your research. That's all I will say. Now, the problem is that I mentioned a precedent that's been set, and therein lies their problem because, like I said, you gave Riley Cooper a slap on the wrist for dropping a racial slur in public on camera, worldwide. So, this situation with Deshaun Jackson, you really can't do much more than that, than what you've already done. Because now you're showing your hypocrisy for the world to see. And like I said, in the current climate that we are in this country, in this world, if you show some hypocrisy to us, I promise you will pay for it. This is just me from a fan standpoint. I just watch. But this is not the time you want to be hypocritical. It is not. And fact of the matter is that there's already enough of this narrative rather out there that the NFL and its owners are like the plantation owners. They treat it like the plantations, like, the clubs and these players on the team are just their property. They throw them around, they do what they want. They cut them those fat checks so they can have their fun and be materialistic and be rich and famous, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, you get out here every Sunday, you work, you play those games, you do what I tell you to do, and that's that. So he already had this narrative out there that it's a racist white man's game, and these fast, strong, genetically superior athletes go out there and just play in it and live in it. You do not want to throw gasoline on that fire again in this current climate that we are in. You do not want to throw gasoline on that already massive inferno by making the wrong decisions in this situation. Am I saying that Deshaun should have posted what he posted? No, I'm not. At the end of the day, you're a professional athlete. Everything you say and do is under a microscope. Case in point, Antonio Brown. I've talked plenty about him already. I'm not going to do it again. But you saw the kind of year that he had last year. We all saw it. It was terrible. It was hard to watch. It was very ugly. That is perfect example, a genuinely perfect example of how much professional athletes are under the microscope. Everything they say and do is watched. So, his beliefs on it aside, do I think he should have posted it for everybody to see? Probably not. Whether or not I disagree or agree with him is of no consequence. It's just, it's out there. But, again, that being said, already the league and the Eagles as a team have clamped down and taken so much more of a hard stance than they ever did with the Riley Cooper situation. That's disturbing. That's very disturbing. And this is very, very, very dangerous. This territory that they seem to be stepping into. I mean, at the end of the day, you brought Deshaun Jackson back because he contributes to your team. He wanted to be in Philly. He never wanted to leave Philly. He's one of the star players on the team. He's been one of the best assets that you've had. And he can still go. And all he does is add to the mix of a Philly team that's high-powered. They're trying to get back to where they were just a few years ago. They won their first championship just 2 seasons ago. Deshaun wants to be a part of that. He wants to, make his contribution and get himself a ring at the end of the day. And he wants to do it in Philly. So he's given so much to this team. He's given so much to the city. Obviously, he wants to be here. And he has never shown to anyone that he is hateful, that he is divisive, that he's any of those things. So, taking that into consideration, and again, knowing the precedent you already set, there is only one course of action. If you're going to find him, find him. Cool. And that will be the end of it. Just like you did with Riley. I don't even support the fine, but if that's precedent, then you follow it. Okay, cool. Pay this little bit in fines, and that's the end of it. You slap him on the wrist the same way you slap Riley. Because truthfully, Riley Cooper should have been suspended indefinitely. That's what I feel about it. It's not what he said, it's how he said it. Clearly, he could care less. Clearly, when he's not in public, when he's around his people, that's how he talks. And if you notice today, he's not in the league anymore. I haven't seen Riley Cooper since then. But it was clear. He had no problems. So we know how he feels. That was clear as day. Without any kind of probing or anything like that. So if that's how you really feel, then you don't need to play. Point blank, period. So the appropriate action, he should have missed games. He did not. I believe he played that whole season. Probably got a few stiff hits from these guys out there on the defense, but he played. So I'm not even going to suggest, but if the thought process comes up of releasing or moving or trading, anything like that with Deshaun, you may want to think twice about that. I'm talking to Jeffrey Lurie and the management. If that is even a sliver of a thought in your mind and your thought process right now, you need to get it out. Because, I don't know, my listeners out here who are checking in with me right now, if you know anything about Philly, they're not a scared people. They don't take bullshit very well. And as recent events would show you, they have no problem going out in the streets and letting you know how they feel in force. They damn near destroyed the city when the Phillies won the World Series. So if you ship out one of their favorite players over this, something that shouldn't, that does not deserve it, you got a problem. You got a serious problem. At the end of the day, they were quick to forgive Riley, very quick, because he put on a show and made himself so apologetic, and you know, made his plea to his teammates for forgiveness and all that other garbage, and they let it go. Deshaun came out and he made his own apology about the situation. Obviously, he didn't have a choice, but he came out and he made a statement. He said he apologized to the Jewish community, to Jeff, to Howie, to Doug Peterson, the organization, everything like that. And he made it. He said, his intention was just to, encourage and uplift people and unite them. It was never his intention to hurt the Jewish community. It was basically his statement was taken out of context because the name Hitler was attached to it. But he did his part. He gave his apology. He made a statement and he made a video apologizing. So, once again, I'm going to say it. Same energy you had with Riley Cooper, keep it with DeSean Jackson. Because they're not even the same person. Let's be honest. If you had to pick between Riley Cooper and DeSean Jackson on a football field, if you have to think about that decision, you don't need to be in football anywhere near it. So that's where I'm standing on this right now. Keep the same energy you had with Riley with DeSean. You want to give him a fine? Give it to him. But let that be the end of this. Because I don't want to see us go any further. I really don't. I'm just gonna leave it there because I don't wanna get aggravated. I really don't. I had a lot more venom on this topic, but I'm not trying to go all the way there today. I'm really not. I'm in a good mood, so we're gonna stay there, and we're gonna go on to a much lighter topic. That being that Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Part 3, the grudge match to end all grudge matches. I believe they have set a date. They're talking December 19th of this year. Now, given where we are in terms of this pandemic, in terms of COVID and everything like that, I would imagine that date is not final. It's easily changeable at this point in time. It's not the word I wanted to use, but it's not set in stone. Subject to change. That's what I meant to say. It's subject to change, and hopefully, I would think by December we would be closer to being able to put that fight on the way we'd love to see it. But we don't know yet. We don't know. As early as yesterday, word is that it's not a final date, but it's we'll say it's a projected date. But anywho, point is, we do know 100% that there will be a third fight. Both men have agreed. The plan is to hold it in Allegiant Stadium, the brand new home of the Las Vegas Raiders. So, if December 19th holds and we are able to pack the house and at least in some capacity, maybe not fully, but maybe 25, 50% of some fans, and we get to have a fight, who wins? That's a good question. Uh, Obviously, if you're keeping score at home, Deontay Wilder ran away with the first fight. A lot of knockdowns and some solid volume against Tyson Fury. Won the first one. The second one, Fury just completely outclassed Deontay. Now Deontay didn't look himself. I will say that. And he's been quoted as saying that the costume he wore kind of fatigued his body as he made his way down. Listen, if you wearing heavy clothes and all this extra stuff on you, you got to get into a 12-round bout with another man. You don't do nothing to affect that. Fury came out on a damn throne. He didn't even walk. So, but anywho, Fury completely outclassed him. And at the end of the day, I don't think there's any boxing aficionado or expert that can debate or dispute that Tyson Fury, as a whole, is the better boxer. I don't think anybody can debate that. It's plain and simple. Deontay Wilder is a great puncher, but in terms of the two of them together in the squared circle, Tyson Fury is the better boxer. All elements of the sport. Tyson Fury over Deontay Wilder. It was never a debate. Now that being said, if Deontay takes this opportunity and this time that he has to work on it, if he gets in and he really goes at it, training, really gets these fundamentals down and really focuses in, just simple things, your footwork, your head movement, everything like that. If he would have moved his head just a little bit more in this fight, he would have, I'm not saying he would have won, but he would have had a much better outing than he did. I mean, Tyson was just beating him senseless. It wasn't even, it was not pretty. It was hard to watch, especially if you're a fan. You know what I'm saying? And I count myself among those fans. I love watching Deontay Wilder fight. This wasn't a good look. This was Tyson Fury going out there and putting on the clinic. And if this wasn't a wake-up call, I don't know what is. You got to go in and you've got to, really, hone in on the other skills of the game. It's not just punching. It's really not. I believe if he does that, then Deontay can win this third fight. I believe so. If he's the same fighter, then I don't see how he wins. Truthfully, if it weren't for all the knockdowns and everything in that first fight, if you really go back and watch the first fight, statistically and scoring, Tyson was getting him. He really was. But he got knocked down. He was almost knocked out multiple times. That was his detriment. So he eliminated that. He came out guns blazing in the second fight and just took Deontay down. So it all depends on what Deontay Wilder we see come December, if that's the final date. I like to believe that Deontay would win the third fight. That's the fan in me. But you can't at all bet against Tyson Fury. You really can't. He's the better boxer, like I said. But as this story continues to develop, we'll cover it a little bit more. And when we get an official announcement for, date, time, everything like that, then I'll get into doing some predictions, stuff like that, and we'll really dig in about it. But that's for later. And this week, we have a massive event coming up, this weekend rather. Moving right along to UFC 251, which will be headlined by Jorge Masvidal taking on Kamaru Usman for the welterweight championship of the world. Now, if you've been following the initial plan, the original main event was Usman defending the belt against Gilbert Burns, who, if you listened to the show last week, I talked about and has been one of the fighters of the year on the male side. He's had a tremendous outing in 2020, back-to-back outings against Damian Maia and Tyron Woodley, two of the top competitors in UFC's welterweight history. Just ran through both of those guys. And so he was fast-tracked into the title shot. He wanted to fight again. 3 fights in 2020, that was the plan. Unfortunately, going into this past week, over the weekend, we found out that Gilbert Burns tested positive for COVID. And so now he is in quarantine. He says he feels good, and he's looking to bounce back and get back as soon as possible. But unfortunately, that left Usman without an opponent. And who should step in to save the day? Well, sure enough, the man that we wanted to see fight Usman in the first place, Jorge Masvidal, he said, screw it. We got 7 days left to try and make this happen. He's been training anyway. He's been cutting weight. I'm ready to go. He jumped in there, got tested, signed the contract, and we had the fight that we wanted in the first place. There had been, negotiations and talks about this fight for so long. They both claimed that they wanted to fight. Usman had so many different approaches and talks about this fight. From going to, who is Jorge Masvidal? Who is he? To, okay, now I want to fight him. Send me the contract, everything like that. Jorge just said from jump, listen, I want to break this dude's face. Set it up. But either way, no matter how we got here, this is where we are. This is the fight we get. It's the main event. And I could not be more thrilled. But this entire card looks fantastic. So I'm just going to run through it really quick. And since it's this Saturday, I'm going to do some predictions. And for my dedicated viewers and listeners, I am actually going to do a results show, or a post show, rather, after UFC 251, after all the smoke clears. I'm going to do a little show just to, go over the results and things like that, give my take on it. It's going to be short, just a little quick recap. But, yeah, my dedicated people, that one's going to be for y'all. But anywho, I'm going to get my predictions, run down the card really quick, and yeah. So, just for the main card here, going to kick the show off with Amanda Ribas taking on Paige VanZant. Amanda Ribas is 9-1. Paige VanZant is 8-4. There is a lot of talk that this is going to be Paige VanZant's final fight in the UFC. A lot of stalled contract talks between her and Dana White. There does not seem to be an impasse here. It looks very much like this is going to be the end for her. And, Paige has had a rather interesting career. It's been fun to watch. We don't know where this is going. She seems like she wants to keep fighting. She seems like she wants to keep going. So I would imagine, win or lose after this, maybe she takes a walk. Maybe it's Bellator. Fingers crossed for PFL. Yeah, who knows? But we haven't seen her in a long time. We really haven't. But she's only 26 years old. There's a lot to still do. But I don't know. In this one, I think I'm gonna go with Ribas. I think, yeah. She won her last fight back in March over Ronda Marcos, Before that, she took a loss to Mackenzie Dern by decision. Both the last two fights were by decision, but yeah, I don't know, man. I gotta see where Paige's head is at right now. That's really what it comes down to. I gotta see where her head's at, how she's gonna look. You know, that first few minutes of that first round will be telling. But and I don't like going against you know a genuinely polarizing fighter, but I think I'm going with Ribas by this. I'm not gonna get into how they win, knockouts, submission, whatever. I'm just picking a winner here. I'm going with Ribas. It's not gonna be a popular pick, but that's what I'm picking. Then after that, in the strawweight division, we have the rematch. Jessica Andrade, the former strawweight champion, versus another former strawweight champion, Rose Namajunas, Thug Rose. The last time these two fought each other was for the strawweight championship. Jessica Andrade defeated then champion Rose for the belt. And that was one of the scariest moments I'd ever seen in watching a UFC fight, because Rose was picking her apart the entire first round. The stand up, it was not even close. She was just handing her ass. And the second round came, Andrade got a hold of her, and she dropped her right on her head. It was scary. Clean knockout, and that was the end of it. And that was the last time we saw Rose. Andrade went on to lose the strawweight championship to Zhang Weili. I don't know how to say her name properly. I hope I'm doing it right. But yeah, she went on to get dominated by Weili in that fight. And now we're back to square one. These two are going at it again. I'm taking Rose in this next bout. Rose is naturally a grappler. That's one of her strongest points: her grappling and her wrestling. So it's actually been more of a improvement, more of a surprise rather, that she's been, handling people the way she has on the stand up. I mean, she destroyed the greatest striker in the game at the time in Joanna Jędrzejczyk to win the strawweight championship, and then she went a 5-round classic with her afterwards, and it was all stand up, and Rose. The big thing going into those fights were her submission game. We thought that she would find a hole in Johanna's game that she would be able to sneak a submission in, but ultimately, it's been all stand up. But if she can just employ that same game plan that she had in the last fight, keep her at a distance, pick her off, do what you got to do, and just avoid getting caught up, avoid getting grabbed, then I don't see any reason why she doesn't coast to a win this time. It's the same fight. You just got to, you just go back and erase that mistake from the last fight. That's all. So and that's nothing against Andrade. She's a phenomenal fighter, but Rose is just in a class all by herself, ultimately. And I think, after this, I think the next step would be on to another shot at the title against Weili. But yeah, I think Rose just has to finish business the way she was in the last fight. So I'm taking Thug Rose, 100%. And now we get into our 3 title fights, starting at the bantamweight division. Petr Yan versus Jose Aldo. To be honest, it's hard for me to pick a winner in this fight, because I don't think these are the 2 people who should be in it. I mean, Petr Yan, yes, but, there's a guy out there by the name of Aljamain Sterling who should be in this fight instead of Jose Aldo. I'm of the opinion that he lost to Marlon Moraes in their fight, but I guess I'm just bugging. I don't know. To be totally honest, I'm actually gonna go with Aldo, and it's not that I don't notice Peter Yan. Obviously, if you saw him really crush Uriah Faber in his last fight, which I wasn't very happy about. But um, this guy's been on a tear. He's 14-1. He is a scary prospect in this 35-pound division, which is full of killers. So that's saying something. But I don't know. Aldo looks very reinvigorated at 135. I was expecting him to look a lot more drained and out of it, but he looks very much back to form. He looks like see some shades of the old Aldo that was 10 years undefeated. So I think that a lot of that speed and the quickness to his game, I think it's going to shine through here. I think Peters has got some power behind those fists, but I think Jose's still only 33, I believe. Yeah, he's 33 years old. He's still young. I think he should come away with the win in this fight, and that'll set up some very interesting title fights to come in the 35-pound division. I think it's the better thing for the 35-pound division. Jose held down featherweight for many long years, so I think he could do a couple at 35, and that'll be great for ratings. Not that Peter Yan wouldn't. I mean, obviously, if you've seen his body work, this dude can bang. But yeah, I'm taking the living legend in Aldo, even though he shouldn't be here. I think he'll win the fight, unless something falls through, because you've been watching social media. Mr. Aljamain has his bag packed, and apparently he's headed out to fight Island as well. So, you take from that what you will. I won't speculate, but if something pops, I'll be the first to post it on the site, so y'all see. Anywho, moving right along, in the co-main event, the Featherweight Championship, we got another rematch, Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. Neither of these two have fought since their last bout, in which Volkanovski, he took it to Max, man. He really took it to Max. And it's the way he did it. Because at the end of the day, I mean, this guy, he figured out Max's game. Everything Max threw, he had a counter for. And that was the story of the fight. It was counter. Max is throwing. He's a cardio machine, but, as soon as he starts throwing shots, you wait for him to come, counter. Every single time. And I think that was only the second time in the last couple of years that we have seen Max really kind of take a decisive loss. Obviously, before that was Dustin Poirier when they were fighting for the interim lightweight championship. Max was still the featherweight champ. He was trying to double champ it up. But Dustin Poirier gave it to him, man. He really did. And that was at lightweight. This featherweight has been Max's domain for a long time. So Volkanovski to rise up and to generally outclass the champ, that was impressive. Man, I want to say Max wins this again. I'm gonna go out. I say Max comes back and regains. I think he does. He's been nothing if not adaptive to, every situation. That there was a time where he was a victim of Conor McGregor's, just like Dustin was. And Dustin just had one of the fights of the year. Every loss teaches you something. You come back, you adapt, you fix your game plan, and you come out stronger the next fight. So I think last fight was a learning experience. I think he has gone over the film and, tightened up all the loose ends. I think he can come out. I think he can do it again. Volkanovski is a tricky son gun. So it's not going to be easy by any stretch, but I put some stock, I put some faith in Blessed. So I say Max comes back and takes it. And, of course, the moment we all been waiting for, the main event. Kamaru Usman defends against Jorge Masvidal in the main event. I'm going to go with my gut. I'm gonna pick Masvidal. Y'all might call me crazy. I'm gonna pick Masvidal. And this isn't to jump on the bandwagon or anything like that. Masvidal is a veteran. He's been in this over a decade. I think it's 14 years he's been fighting. Um, Usman is a beast. He is an absolute beast. He has destroyed everyone the welterweight division has thrown at him, all the way up to the top. Damian Maia, Tyron the champion, Kobe Covington. I mean, he has beaten them all. But Jorge Masvidal is a complete fighter. He is prepared for everything. He's always prepared to go. He took this fight on 7 days' notice. So, you know, it's gonna be one of his greatest tests to date. We are gonna see Masvidal's heart in this fight, and for Usman, I think his whole thing is that he's gonna expose Masvidal. Good luck, buddy. Good luck. You know, he went out and look at this. Look at Masvidal's last 3 fights. He knocked Darren Till into another dimension. No. I'm sorry. He did that to Ben Askren. He knocked Darren Till out clean in London. Then he sent Ben Askren into another dimension inside 1 second. It was not 5 seconds. 5 seconds was the time that the referee finally grabbed Masvidal and got him off of Ben Askren. That was the time that they said. It was 1 second. The fight clock hadn't started yet. At 5 seconds, Ben Askren had already been asleep for 4 seconds. So, he did that. And then he went out and just started tearing up Nate Diaz. They had to stop the fight because his gash was about to drop down into his eye. He had just tore his eye, the top of his eye and his eyebrow all the way up. So this is not a guy that you're just gonna run through, even though that's what he believes. But I think this is going to be a great fight. I expect fireworks. I think this is going to be probably a 5-round banger. Obviously, a finish would be phenomenal. But yeah, it's going to be, I think, a 5-round banger easily. Contender for one of the fights of the year, I think it'll be. But I'm taking Masvidal. It's going with my gut because it would be a hell of a story. It really would. And it's not going to be. It is not going to be missed. So this Saturday, 10 o'clock, it's going to be the first of 4 events on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. The island is real, y'all. And it starts this weekend. So, fight fans, if there's any card you're going to watch this year, this is the one. You want to check it out. But anywho, way over my time right now. That is going to do it for my show today. Thank you, all my listeners, my viewers, my dedicated ones for tuning in. Remember, after UFC 251, I will be doing a brief post show, just going over the results, giving my take on everything. Hopefully, I'll do that with somebody else, see some guests or something like that. But, this has been the show. Thank y'all for listening. I appreciate everybody's support and everything like that. All my people in the media circles and everything like that. Y'all know who y'all are. My people's over at Young Kings Wrestling. If you don't know, go check it out. Go take it, have a listen. Best wrestling pod on Wednesday nights. And I will talk to y'all next week.